Imagism. Imagism was a movement in the early 20th century during World War I. Imagism was a reactionary movement to the fast-changing world due to the industrialization and World War I. These changes led many to question the old way of doing things, and many poets began to focus on the individual and on the individual as they interacted with this new society. Many poets at the time felt that Romanticism and Classicism, which characterized much of the poetry for the time, was too flowery and vague, and these poets were looking for a new way to authentically respond to this rapidly changing world. Imagism rejected extra words that did not support presentation and aimed to paint clear pictures with words. This new world had very different philosophy, psychology, and political expression than before the war. Due to the horrors of the war, there was a poetry reaction, and many poets were looking for a new way of looking at the world and expressing themselves. Some of the founding poets of this movement include Ezra Pound, Richard Aldington, Hilda Doolittle, Amy Lau, and they can trace the origins of this form to poet T.E. Holmes, who wrote poems like Autumn and A City Sunset. One of the most famous poets of this form was Ezra Pound. Pound was very critical of Romanticism and classical poetry and saw publishers for the time period like The Atlantic, Harper's, and Century fighting against the art form that he believed poetry should be. The Imagism movement focused on precision and economy of language, something that Pound was very fond of. He blamed the carnage of the war on finance capitalism and became a very controversial figure in regards to economic theory. Pound helped coin the term Imagism in 1912 for the modernist movement, and according to the Poetry Foundation, Pound explained his new literary direction, Imagism, combined the creation of an image, what he defined as an intellectual and emotional complex in an instant of time. Pound was the most famous writer to come out of this time period. His writing and those of his contemporaries to the Imagist movement were characterized by precise images, brevity, and free verse, all of which can be found in his poem, The Return, and other poems by him. The Imagist movement never ended, but evolved into many different forms and was very influential on modernism and postmodernism. This came around 1917 when many of the poets who had founded Imagism began to disagree with the direction of the movement. Thank you.